Good evening and welcome to the Marcellus Central School District Board of Education meeting for tonight, Monday, November 9th, 2020. This time I would ask that you please stand and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 3 on this evening's agenda, presentation, COVID-19's impact on our school updates.
Actually, if you all wouldn't mind, I thought our students that are here tonight maybe could jump in front of me and do their presentation so that they don't have to stick around. And so I'm going to introduce you to Mr. Eric Hubbard, our DMS assistant principal, and he's going to talk a little bit about what's been going on with robotics.
All right, thank you very much. So just over a year ago, I was hired to be your STEAM innovation coordinator, and I've since taken on the role of assistant principal at Driver Middle. And one of the roles that, or one of the things that was, I think was one of the reasons I was hired is because of my experience in bringing robotics maybe to the district. And so in this endeavor, we have started the planting the seed a little bit with Mr. Walker and Mr. Sunheimer. And they're starting this team. It's called the First Tech Challenge. First Robotics is the one Dean came and started a little over 30 years ago. And I've never seen anything more beneficial to kids as far as getting real life problem solving experience. And that's kind of, what I wanted for the kids here at Marcellus. So one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to build a couple of robots. We're going to compete virtually. And in order to do that, however, we need some funding and whatnot to do. So that's the reason we're here, so that you're aware of what we're doing. We have some students here that are going to kind of, through the video presentation, then I have one speaker who's going to tell you a little bit about that funding that we're going to try to do with sponsorships to raise that money to be able to do that. So we'll start off with Lauren.
Thank you, Mr. Hubbard. So my name is Lauren Zobel, and I'm an 8th grade student. As Mr. Hubbard was saying, funding is a vital part of creating and maintaining the robotics team. And this program is going to be giving us an introduction to STEM-related fields that's fun and easy. So we've created a sponsorship video for you guys that is just a little overview, and it's going to be what we're sending to people who are trying to get sponsorships done.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Megan Morocco, and I'm Junior Taylor. We are both juniors at Marcellus Senior High School, and both of us know that when we grow up, we want to go into careers in the STEM field. High school doesn't really give you as many real exposure opportunities to get to know what your career choice might entail. However, our high school has given us opportunity to be a part of the First Tech Challenge team this year.
The First Tech Team Challenge is a nationwide competition where schools compete against each other in order to advance to the next level and compete later on in a nationwide competition.
Each team is challenged with building and programming a robot to complete the same set of tasks.
This robotics club can give students the fun outlet and creativity that they need to express themselves with.
Through this program, students will have the opportunity to develop skills that will be invaluable to our careers, some which include leadership, perseverance, determination, and especially teamwork. In order to succeed, communication will be a vital skill we will all need to develop to bring our diverse thoughts and ideas together, a trait that will be important to how we will work in a team in the future and throughout our lives. We need your help. In order to build a robot and obtain the materials that we will need to build a robot to help us compete in the First Tech Challenge team, we will have to raise around $5,000.
Any money that you can give us will be greatly appreciated and can help shape our futures for the better.
We need to raise a minimum of $5,000 in order to get started. To do this, we've created 3 tiers of sponsorship: the silver level, the gold level, and the platinum level. Donations between $100 and $499 fall into the silver level. Our silver sponsors will receive recognition on our website. Donations between $500 and $999 fall into the gold level. Gold sponsors receive recognition on the team shirt and website, as well as their name being listed on the team brochure. The platinum level contains donations upwards of $1,000. Platinum sponsors receive the same benefits as gold sponsors. However, the company logo will be in a prominent location on the t-shirt and website, as well as the company logo being listed on the team brochure, and an on-site presentation from the team. Here is an example of where the gold level sponsors' names will appear on the backside of our t-shirts, and where the platinum level sponsors' names and logos will be located on the backside of our t-shirts.
Any contribution will be a step in the right direction, and for that I sincerely say thank you from the Marcellus First Technology.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So they're gonna hand out some brochures that we're gonna be handing out when we do our presentations or when we go to do our sponsorship drive. Some of this is gonna be tweaked a little bit, but like I said before, the benefits to our kids include actually $80 million in scholarships available nationwide, actually worldwide. It is a worldwide competition, so there's a lot for kids to learn. It's a big endeavor to do this whole program, and the kids have already stepped up, even after barely even touching a robot. And so, this is kind of what we're looking to have impact for our students.
Eric, could each of the students here tonight just introduce themselves and say their grade? I fear that I don't have the complete list, seeing the number that are here, so.
I agree. You want to start with it, Matt?
Yeah, I'm Matthew Frost, and I'm a senior.
I'm Allie Coombs, I'm in 8th grade. I'm Lauren Zabel, I'm in 9th grade.
I'm Haley Sada, I'm in 11th grade.
I'm Gabe Hogan, I'm a junior.
I'm Logan McShane, I'm in 9th grade.
I'm Gray Jermaine, and I'm also in 11th grade.
And I'm Dan Mitchell, I'm 11th grade as well.
So one of the things that excites me is the fact that we brought it down to the middle school, because I have maybe a scientist to meet at lunchtime, which I do. I meet twice a week with students, 8th grade students. And in order to help build our program and sustain it, we need kids to start earlier. The program actually starts 7th to 12th, but we already have so many kids that signed up. We officially need 2 teams. We only have 1 team. We can only have 15 kids on a team, and we have 24, 25 at last count. So we're going to need to, step up our game a little bit. We do have some benefit also. Liverpool High School had a team, and they closed it and went with a different program. So we got the benefit because of my relationship with them. We have about $4,000 worth of equipment and parts and stuff like that they gave to us, and we have to raise $500 in order to own it. So we're in the process of doing that. So, I'd like to open up any questions, or anybody have?
I do just want to mention, I think I put this in the update, that robotics had a little bit earlier start than Eric in our community with some amazing parents. I see Patty here tonight, and I know that there was a group of parents that had students competing in the first Lego League, and probably who was competing on those teams prior to school? Yeah, I thought so. So, I was hearing about that happening and knew that the parents were really wanting, hopefully for the school at some point, to keep this thing going. And I think with Eric joining our team, it really became just an obvious match for that program. And I'm super inspired and excited to see the interest that our students have, because there are so many things that can be gained. So thanks for our parents with their their foresight to offer this opportunity for their children, and I appreciate the jump start they gave us.
So the competitions are a little fluid right now because most of them are going to be remote, so they're going to start in February. There are some in person, it depends on where you go, but even that's up for change. So we actually have to build our own field because we're going to do it virtually. We have to build our own field that we can compete on. So that's part of it as well.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I thought your video was excellent, and I'm so excited for you guys. It sounds like just such a great opportunity, and, you know, it's just to come together as a team and have this opportunity to compete. So you have my full support, and I hope you get great sponsorships. I'm sure there's a lot of companies in the area that would be very interested in supporting a group such as this. So good for you guys.
Did you guys create the video?
Yes.
It's all students. Me and Mr. Sunham have no idea.
I've been busy doing other things, so, no, they've been wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
So Mark and Steve are both, Steve Walker and Mark Sunheimer, if you don't recognize them, all masked up, are working with Eric as coaches, and I think Audrey Missiano at the middle school level. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
and by the way, I mean, Audrey had a fantastic year last year. Her team went and, actually both of the teams, so there's one that was community-based and one that was school-based. And both of the teams did fantastic last year. I think they went on to win a regional competition, right? So, so that was huge also. And we have a new hire, new science teacher at the middle school, Adriana Peretta. And she even shows interest in maybe helping out the team at the 8th grade level. So I'm going to invite her to one of our lunches.
And they're doing first Lego at that level still? First Lego League?
They have a first Lego League team, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but the 8th graders, obviously, we have 5 girls, all girls at the middle school who are attached to the FTC team.
Go girls.
All girls, that's right. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you very much.
Listen, if anybody wants to write checks right now, no.
All right, I'm sure that presentation was a lot more exciting than the next presentation is going to be, but
Yeah.
Mrs. Brander, COVID-19 impact on school update.
I take no offense,
No.
because I agree with you. So just quickly cycling back to pool testing, I actually had a conversation with Mike maybe a week or two ago, just sort of talking through whether or not he felt like I thought testing was a good idea or not a good idea. And in some ways, I thought that was a great tribute to the fact that I really tried to stay neutral and look at this from the varying perspectives that I was hearing. But at this point, I just want to review with you that pool testing is up and running. It's been happening for about a month. And so far, from what I know, they've discovered of the testing that they've done, they've had one positive case come out of it. And at our last meeting, we had decided we just needed a little time to think and process. And I had asked the county to place us in week 7. It's a 7-week rotation, just to give us time to have this conversation. So basically, a reminder of the process: a team comes to campus. They're trying to do 2 buildings or districts, in our case, a day till they hit 60 tests. Any volunteers will go to whatever the location is that's set up. They do cheek swabs, pool them in groups of 12, and the pool is tested. So a group of 12 tests are run together. If there's a hit on one of the pools, they then rerun them. So the pool testing, the initial test takes a day. They get back to you before the start of the next day. But if there's a hit on a pool, it takes an additional day to run that pool separately, the individual test, to find the infected person. And then, of course, if an individual is found to be positive, then the contact tracing process that Jean and I are masters at this point would ensue, and we would determine who the contacts were, and they would end up quarantining.
Michelle, can you clarify again, the pool, that when they come here in week 7 for us, and the volunteers can consist of faculty,
Just that.
just staff,
Just staff.
okay.
This is not student testing.
No student testing in this, okay.
So you would also, I think Mike had asked, what does the staff think? So Jean was kind enough to put together a survey and put it out. We had a lot of response. Almost 200 people responded, which is fantastic. And you can see here's the breakdown for folks that would think that surveillance testing being done here is a good idea. So blue is yes. And then if we decided to conduct pool testing, would you be willing to participate? Very similar statistic there. So at this point, I've thought about it. I talked a little bit more to people. I just can't find a reason not to want to seek out if there is someone who's infected, even though having this done on a voluntary basis it's not perfect. Obviously, if for this to be done and have the best impact, you would take random samples and then you could assume that sample would represent the rest of, the population. But that being said, with so many people willing, it may be that we can get a decent random sample. And if we find one person that prevents a lot of people from potentially getting sick, to me, it's worth it. Obviously, no one really knows if an asymptomatic person would infect other people. I'd like to think we're taking really good measures, but honestly, with each case that we have, no two are the same. There's people that aren't symptomatic, there's people that are symptomatic, and we still have yet to have any internal transmission from either an asymptomatic or a symptomatic person. I hope that stays the same, because then I'd like to say that it's because we're doing the right things. But that being said, my recommendation is that we go forth with the pool testing. I don't know if you feel differently.
I would concur. Since our last meeting, I've given this an awful lot of thought, both from a board perspective as well as from a principal's perspective. And I don't know why we wouldn't want to take advantage of an opportunity to mitigate this as much as possible. No guarantees within our school district. So I agree with Mrs. Brandner that we should go ahead and participate in the pool testing.
Michelle, can you clarify? So this will run concurrent with, now that we're in this yellow category.
We're
We're not in a yellow
We're not
category,
in
but
the
that's my
yellow.
next thing I'll
Oh,
talk
okay, all
about.
right.
Thankfully, we're not. That's one good bit of news today.
I agree with Mike and Michelle. I think it's worth doing.
I agree as well. I think given that our staff, voiced that they would like to participate in it and they are willing to participate in it, I think that, it's important to honor that.
So I'll make the call tomorrow and just make sure, I'm sure we're in the queue. And we'll move forward and let's hope for no positives. Cal?
Michelle, what date is week 7 for the pool testing?
Probably right after Thanksgiving, if I'm
After Thanksgiving.
guessing correctly.
So just to clarify, so if somebody participates in the pool testing and they're an asymptomatic positive, then the contact tracing would happen. And so say this happens during, any given school day, the following, would it be as quick as the following day, then all those direct contact students, staff, whatever would be notified, and then they would be put into an automatic 14-day quarantine?
So I'm going to give you a scenario that hopefully will help illustrate. So let's say we test on a Tuesday and we find out that there was a positive test. They will contact trace 2 days prior to the positive test result. And so that means Monday would get captured, okay? So I would find out on Tuesday, probably sometime in the evening, that there was a positive pool. Lucky for us, Wednesday's a virtual day, so we wouldn't have to shut down. Obviously, there's scenarios where I would have to shut down while I did the contact tracing, okay? But this scenario isn't one of them. If it was Thursday, and we found out we would have to shut down for Friday while we tested, okay? But on Tuesday, I'm gonna contact trace back on Monday and of course Sunday. So the health department is going to talk to the positive individual about their Sunday happenings. I'm gonna deal with Monday. That means any of their close contacts would end up quarantining for 14 days. So what's a close contact? If it's a teacher, pretty much any student that they have, depending on the age, grade, and grade level, they would quarantine. They are now looking at students in grades 10, 11, and 12 a little bit differently. So they're looking at allowing longer exposure time in a classroom with social distance and masks being worn. Anybody who's in a second period class of an infected individual where lunch is eaten after, as an extension of the class, that automatically lands you in quarantine. So you can see there's a lot of factors that go into this. They also treat staff one-to-one contact differently. They're assuming if you're having a conversation with someone, you may not be socially distant, but you may have a mask on, and it goes on and on and on and on. So Jean and I have gotten pretty good at taking a look at all the possible factors, the criteria that the county uses, and today we were 100% at predicting who was gonna quarantine, so.
So why are they looking at 10, 11, and 12 differently?
They're assuming that older kids are more compliant, which I don't necessarily always agree with, but it's
I
an
can show you a
interesting
kindergarten class
philosophy.
that's a lot more compliant.
Yeah.
So
I think also too, with young children, let's be frank. Social distance is, you do your best, but it's not the way it works. And in some high school settings, it doesn't work that way either. If you have a one-to-one working with a special needs child, but all those factors come into play. There's no hard and fast rule.
what is the exposure time that considers quarantine, and how does it change from K-9 and then to 10, 12?
It all depends on other conditions. So it could be 15 minutes or more. It could be an hour or more. It could be 2 hours or more. I had some today that were 40 minutes, but because of the conditions, they quarantined. It could be 30 minutes and because of the conditions. So there's not one formula. You have to look at a variety of conditions.
Size of the room.
Size of the room, yeah, lots of factors.
I can see the argument on both sides of this coin. I get that knowledge is, and if you can prevent an asymptomatic person from spreading. But then when I think about the kids that are hit with the quarantining and the impact that has on them,
But I'm
You know.
sick.
Yeah. No, there's no question.
it's just
I'm
tough if
dealing
your
with
kid
it.
is in that
Oh, I know.
quarantine mix, and then they could come back to school and get hit with another quarantine mix,
Yeah,
it's just.
it's what,
tough.
the only way to avoid that is to not be here at all, and I think we're doing the best that we can.
Right.
I can tell you, I understand that as well, and it's something that's weighed heavy on me, the mental health component. I have 2 staff members right now that are on their second quarantine, and they've done nothing wrong.
Right.
And it's, it's very emotional, very depressing, and I'm calling them and being the bearer of bad news, and I'm feeling it with them firsthand, but I think they do understand. What's frustrating in some ways is no one's catching it, but that's also great. Because then you say, are we over quarantining because no one's getting it? But what does it look like to under quarantine, So I think my hope with the news that we had today that great strides are being made with a vaccine, I'm hopeful that this is just going to be a good story, in a short period of time. And I think until then, we just have to try to do our best. So to Janine's other question, there was a lot of breaking news today, and it was creating a swirl about the yellow cluster zone because the first words out was that Onondaga County was designated, which, we're in Onondaga County. And then it got further refined, and I think there was still misinformation out, Mike and I were discussing. So, we're all trying to figure it out. And what I did is I put an email out very quickly to you and to the staff to just sort of say, we're gathering information. Let's not get crazy about this until we know. Let's everybody just be calm. So here's the areas of Onondaga County that were designated today. I think what we all need to recognize is that this could happen to anybody. We're very fortunate right now. Let's hope it stays that way. So those are the areas and rules for yellow cluster zones. I sent this out to you a long time ago.
Yeah.
I sent you the chart about red, orange, yellow. But just as a reminder, if we get to this point, the one that you really care about is the last one. So schools in a yellow cluster zone are able to remain open, but testing of 20% of students and staff has to happen to have any in person. In orange and red, you're shut down. So the challenge
That's
here.
weekly testing,
I'm sorry,
weekly testing.
weekly, yes,
And that is done where and how?
yes.
Good question.
We'll find out what they do up north.
Exactly what we're saying. So anyway, I'm glad that I don't have to be the first one to answer that. I'll do it, though I like to be first on a lot of things, not on this. And, the challenge is we're not testing entities. It's probably not advisable that we become testing entities. There's a lot of liability with that. And it's one thing to have someone from the outside come and use our space to test, as long as we aren't owning the process of testing. The other challenge is that I can't require anyone, students or staff, to test. So it is completely voluntary. And, it'll largely be up to the community, really. If you can't get 20% of your people willing to have their kids tested weekly, you won't be open. And that's just the way it'll be. So I think we're going to be watching while Solvay, Baldwinsville, Lyncourt, ESM, Liverpool, City of Syracuse, and some of North Syracuse really struggle through this. And Mike McCullough will struggle too, and he'll be telling us his struggles. So that was one bit of good news for Marcellus today, but we will certainly keep Mike and his school in our thoughts. So just to recap, we've had 3 cases in the past 4 days. So like I said, I'm really getting very proficient, and I see a career for me at the health department if I wash up as a superintendent. So we had 1 Friday, 1 Sunday, and 1 today. The results were on Friday, we did have to close KCH to do the contact tracing, which led to 7 staff members and 17 students. And then Sunday's case only led to a quarantine of 2 staff members. And today was a quarantine of 4 students and 8 staff members.
And Michelle, that's because we have enough substitutes to cover those 8 staff members or 7 staff members?
The KCH case is probably the most challenging coverage-wise, because a lot of classrooms, the teacher was taken out, but not the students. And Bob was able to get coverage so far. I wish I had some wood to knock on. I'm hoping it'll stay that way. This case right here, a lot of the adults are associated with the same sort of group of students, so it shouldn't be a factor.
And out of the cases that we've had, has anybody shown symptoms, or has this been all through asymptomatic positives?
Nope, we had symptoms. The Sunday case was symptomatic, and today's case was symptomatic. But the onset of symptoms didn't happen while they were at school. It was like, wake up in the morning, I'm sick, what do I do, kind of thing, which is wonderful. So no one came in, because it could happen that way, right? How many days you get up in the morning, you're fine, you go to work, and by lunch, you feel like you got hit by a truck, so it can happen that way. We've been fortunate with these individuals, it hasn't, but please understand, on a daily basis, we are sending students home who are sick, and it could be at any time, one of those symptomatic persons actually have COVID. Right now, it's been other things. So we are sending home, every day we're sending home kids, and every day kids are getting tested, and some staff too.
And has the turnaround time on results been better for testing?
Depends on where you go.
It depends on where you go. depends on where you go. If you recall, the first case we had at the high school, we really had a heck of a time getting the test result. It was done in a lab in Oswego, a well now. And I told Amy Steigerwald today that we witnessed a miracle because she was able to get a test result from well now. And so, I think their processes must be improving. Besides Amy's magical qualities, it must be that process is, because if the labs don't communicate with the county,
Right.
it makes it hard. But every other case, when I've called the county, they have been able to look up the person and say, oh, yeah, we did get the result. Because generally, I'm hearing from an individual or a family before I'm hearing from the county.
That makes sense.
Margie?
As of right now, has anybody who's quarantined from the Friday case, have they shown any symptoms?
Not that I've had reported to me.
So the spread is
It
continuing?
seems that we're containing it. I'm a little more concerned about today's case, but hopefully, just because of the nature of that case and the conditions. So we'll see. That's what I've got, friends.
Okay, thank you.
Item number 4, recognition.
We do have some recognitions. I'd like to start with just thanking Eric and, also obviously Steve and Mark and all the people that have worked on robotics that came before them. Obviously, they're doing this on a voluntary basis right now, and it takes a lot of time and energy to keep things moving in a forward direction. So I really appreciate the effort. I think it's going to have a huge benefit to our students, all different kinds of students that are interested in all different kinds of things. So I appreciate that. I also really appreciate Ryan and all of our building custodians. Every time there's a case, his response and his team's response is immediate. What I love and hate is that they take each case personally as though they could have prevented it, but they really put their heart and soul into making sure that everything is cleaned and extra cleaned. I mean, they're doing a great job every night, and I never want to send a message that we need to shut down to clean, because we don't. But they go back and make sure that there's no stone left unturned, so to speak. So I appreciate that. I feel a lot of confidence that things are done and done right. From our last meeting, I just have to thank Tony and Joanne Scholl in our business office. The excellent work that they do every day leads to those amazing audits that we continually have. And it's hard because you're used to having these great audits, but I can tell you that's not how it is everywhere else. And it's a wonderful thing to have such competent people in their business office. And to Mike Free and all of our fall coaches and athletes, there were a lot of districts that made the decision they weren't going to have fall athletics, and we knew that our kids really needed something, and Mike and that group of coaches partnered with our athletes and their families to find a way to do this safely. And I'll be honest with you, it is shocking to me that we've not had major cases among our athletic teams, and that we've had some bumps in the road with having to cancel things and move things, because we're certainly at the mercy of a few cases and quarantines we've had, but also other school districts. But everybody stayed pretty flexible, and we're coming to the completion of a really successful fall season, and I know that our students are full of gratitude for having the opportunity. So thanks to Mike and his team. And that's what I got, friends.
Item number 5, resident comments. Public expression at Board of Education meetings is encouraged, and a specific portion of the agenda shall provide for this privilege. In most instances, the board shall reserve judgment regarding questions and concerns that are brought to the board's attention at a board meeting, as it is typically not prudent for the board to make instantaneous determinations. Furthermore, many issues that are brought to the board's attention do not require a formal determination by the board, but rather are more appropriately addressed by the superintendent or persons designated by the superintendent without further board action, in accordance with policy 3220. This time, are there any any community or resident comments? Moving on, item 6, business. 6.1, second and final reading of Board of Education policies. Resolved that the Board of Education approves the second and final reading of the following Board of Education policies. You see the list in front of you. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Okay. Second? Margie? Any questions or comments in regards to any of these policies? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. 6.2, authorization to participate in cooperative energy purchasing service for electricity and natural gas. Resolved that the Board of Education approves the resolution authorizing participation in the New York School and Municipal Energy Consortium for electricity and natural gas pursuant to the Municipal Cooperation Agreement for Energy Purchasing Services dated May 1st, 2005.
Yeah, that's when the cooperative is formed.
May I have a motion?
Motion?
Kelly? Yep. Second?
Second, Christine.
Any questions or comments? May I have all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. 6.3, approval of MOU for MFA. Resolved that the Board of Education approves the memorandum of understanding for the Marcellus Faculty Association regarding the COVID-19 sick bank. May I have a motion?
Yes.
Okay. Second? Janine. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 6.4, acceptance of internal audit report. Resolved that the Board of Education accepts the internal audit for the school year ending June 30th, 2020. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Margie? Second?
Second, Christine.
Christine? Any questions or comments in regards to this item? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. 6.5, acceptance of external audit report. Resolved that the Board of Education accepts the external audit, the basic and extra classroom activity fund financial statements for the school year ending June 30th, 2020. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Kelly? Second?
Second.
Patty? Questions or comments? Tony, can you just explain the difference between the internal audit and external audit?
Sure. The internal audit is an audit that focuses very, very intensely on a particular area that's often selected by the Board of Education. The internal audit was a result of the New York State Comptroller's 5-point plan. If anybody has not watched a movie called Bad Education, I recommend that you do watch it. It will show you exactly why we do a lot of the things that we do in terms of audits, both from the Office of the State Comptroller themselves and this internal audit process. So you should know that this audit costs you around $10,000 a year. But something has changed recently where this audit, the internal audit, is optional. Once you drop below 1,500 students, you're no longer required through the State Comptroller's 5-point plan to do an internal audit. So this is the last audit that you folks will accept unless you direct us to proceed with another internal audit. So
Because we dropped below the 15,000?
1,500, correct, yeah. The external audit is, that's required of all municipalities, and so that is actually an audit of our financial statements. So it doesn't, the intent isn't, the extent isn't nearly as focused as the internal audit, but as I said, more so on the financial statements themselves. They also do some testing for payroll and things of that nature, but it's far broader in scope than the internal audit.
But in terms of internal, external, I mean, both of them are done by outside organizations looking at us. Where internal does not mean that we are auditing ourselves?
No.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Item 6.6, approval of professional learning plan. Resolved that the Board of Education approves the professional learning plan for the Marcellus Central School District 2020 to 2025. May I have a motion?
Yes.
Debbie? Second?
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. 6.7, approval of budget calendar. Resolved that the Board of Education approves 2021-22 school budget calendar. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Margie? Second?
Second.
Kelly? Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Item 7, personnel. Resolved that the following personnel items be approved. Item 7.1 through 7.7, you can see them on your agenda. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Margie? Second?
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Consent agenda. Resolved that the consent agenda consisting of the following items be approved. You can see those items in front of you. 8.1 through 8.5. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Ready? Second?
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Item 9, information items, board meeting format status. I believe this is just a
Nothing new.
placeholder on the agenda.
The order keeps being extended for obvious reasons, so nothing new.
And if we were to enter into that yellow zone, that would have an impact, not necessarily on meeting in person, but on an attendance, correct?
Correct. We go down to 25.
What's disposable of equipment? At the bottom of 8.5, what is
It's
that?
in the.
We have
I think
things that get disposed of, that are either out of date or broken or not usable anymore. Sometimes it's for selling purposes and sometimes it's for garbage.
That's an attachment that comes out with the agenda when there are items. Item 10, resident comments. Any resident comments? No. And item 11, executive session. There are no items. Item 12, resolved that the Board of Education meeting be adjourned. 7:43 is the time. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Ready? Second?
Second.
Kelly? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. All right,
Keep
7:43.
going.